And welcome to the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We're here to speak to you about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon-to-be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at Aaron, Aaron, at lighthousecapital.co.il. That's Aaron, lighthousecapital.co.il. You can check me on the web at www.aaronkatsman.com. That's www.aaronkatsman.com. You can be sure to follow me on both LinkedIn and Twitter, and be sure to subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel. It is my honor to introduce today's guest. Today's guest, his name is Zev Stub. He's a friend, and he's also the Jerusalem Post's business reporter. Prior to that, he founded and managed Janglo, the famous Janglo. This is the face of Janglo. Nobody really knows what Zev looks like, but this is Mr. Janglo, which was a very popular Jerusalem-based online community, which he then sold in 2019. Zev hails from Chicago, Illinois. He lives in Jerusalem with his wife and 3 children. Zev, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aaron. It's good to be here. You were very useful consulting me with some of the economics of that Janglo sale. And what are you talking about? People recognize my face.
Okay, well, whatever you say. So I'd like to speak to you. You're the Jerusalem Post business reporter, which is pretty cool. And the first thing I'd like to speak about, we spent a lot of time speaking about Corona or COVID. I don't know what the difference is, but Corona. Okay, and as a business reporter, I'd like to know first how Israel sort of economically is coming out of Corona.
So right now we're coming out very quickly, actually a lot more rapidly than planned. But I want to just give a little background about what's going on in general. So when the pandemic started last year, so Israel developed the coronavirus economic safety net plan, which put a lot of people on unemployment or unpaid leave. Were given a big economic package totaling up to as much as 70% of their original salaries for those that were unemployed. And hundreds of thousands were unemployed throughout the pandemic. The average unemployment rate throughout 2020 was about 16%, which is very high. So that plan did help a lot of people stay afloat. But now we're at the end of May, and the situation's a lot different. Israel's vaccination plan has been stupendous, and we've gone from, I think we had as many as 8,000 or so new cases a day. We're now at 30, something like that. Like in a certain respect, coronavirus is, I don't want to say, I'm afraid to say it, but it's kind of over here. A lot of people aren't afraid anymore. But now the economy is starting to reopen in a major way. So we have a different challenge. When Israel started that economic safety plan, they said, okay, this is going to continue until the end of June 2021, which gave a lot of people extra breathing room, and that was great for them. But it also means that now there's a lot of people who don't have an incentive to go back to work. So, the economy started really reopening at the beginning of April or so after the Passover holiday. And, and things have been reopening nicely, even better, even faster than planned. As I walk around the streets of Jerusalem, things are packed. I mean, there's no tourism, there's 0 foreign tourists, and local tourism, from other cities inside of Israel is also pretty low. It's, especially, because of the violence we've had in the past few weeks.
And school, kids are still in school, so it's hard for families to come.
Exactly. So there's not a lot of tourism. But that being said, Jerusalemites are out and about, and as if almost, coronavirus never happened. And the unemployment rate has been coming down faster than expected. Yesterday, I think, the Central Bureau of Statistics said that the rate had come down to 7.9% at the end of April, which, like I said, from 16%. So that's actually going down faster than expected. So that's going better than expected, but there's still a lot of people who just don't have any incentive to go back to work. So what's going on is a lot of the restaurants and a lot of the stores that employ, lower wage people, they're actually really struggling because they can't find employees. Among the people I spoke with, I've been speaking with a number of cafes and restaurants and stores. I spoke with one cafe owner who said he could only hire back 20% of the manpower that he needs to operate the business. And what does that mean? That means he can't handle the business. People
Right.
come in and can't serve them properly. So that's a big problem. That's really hurting a lot of businesses.
So I'll tell you on a personal level, there's a new, as we both know, there's a new supermarket which opened up in our neighborhood. And my son, my 18-year-old son, who's in the midst of his matriculation exams, as they say, finishing up high school, he got a job there. But he wanted to work part-time. He wanted to go in like 2 or 3 days a week, and they can't hire anybody. So he's been working 6 days a week. It's really crazy that's the situation. And we see that all over, right? You were talking about the center of Jerusalem. My office is in the center of Jerusalem, and I see exactly what you're talking about. Everywhere you go, there's help wanted signs, what have you, and it's a real issue. So is the government maybe even talking about rolling back some of the unemployment benefits?
So the program is scheduled to end at the end of June. So that's a month away. So the good news is that there seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I did just now see a headline that it was unconfirmed that they do have a plan now, which looks like it actually might continue more of the same thing, which is making a lot of businesses unhappy. I just now saw the headline literally in the last half hour. I haven't had a chance to cover that. But the businesses are furious because they just, they can't now find the manpower to go on. So that's the big challenge now in the small business community in Israel.
And in the service, it mostly impacts, I guess, the service industry more than anything else.
Right. As you know, the high-tech industry has been doing incredibly for the last few months, and we're, listing new unicorns like every week or so. We could talk about that another time maybe, but it's the lesser, the lower wages, the less educated jobs that are really the ones that got hit the most. One of the ideas that I had, that was being discussed was to link further unemployment benefits with things like perhaps participating in professional re-education or things, because in general, even besides Corona, there's a big problem in Israel that there's not enough quality programmers in the startup nation. And in general, there's a sense that the Israeli workforce needs to be trained more. So that was one of the ideas out there. And we'll see if there's any progress on that.
Okay. This is the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We speak to you about your life, your money, and your investments. If you've got any questions or comments, feel free to email me at Aaron, AARON, at lighthousecapital.co.il. That's Aaron at lighthousecapital.co.il. You can check me out on the web at www.aaronkatsman.com. That's www.aaronkatsman.com. Be sure to follow me on both LinkedIn and Twitter, and subscribe to the brand new YouTube channel where you get all the interviews in one spot. We're speaking with Zev Stub, who is the Jerusalem Post's business reporter, and we're speaking all things business Israel. How do you like that? Zev, let me ask you a question first before I ask you the next question. Is that if anybody wants to contact you, how can they get in touch with you?
My email is Zev, Z-E-V with one V, Zev at jpost.com from the Jerusalem Post, jpost.com.
Great. That's Zev at jpost.com. So anybody who wants to get in touch with you should go ahead and send you an email. So we're past Corona, and I'd like to now sort of pivot and speak about sort of trends in the Israeli economy that you find. You do a lot of writing about this, and I thought we could, get some really interesting information from you about it. So what kind of trends do you see going on in Israel in, 2021?
Right. So right now, in general, the tech sector is red hot. And like I said, there's just so much investment going into, Israeli startups. They're talking about how Startup Nation is really now Scale Up Nation with with tons of large businesses, whereas it used to be that, Israel was known for having smaller startups that maybe would get sold to a multinational. Now we really are developing a fair number of very large multinational corporations here in Israel. And there's a lot of funding going into companies. So besides Startup Nation and Scale Up Nation, it's also the Unicorn Nation with tons of companies also.
For the uninitiated, sorry to interrupt, for the uninitiated, what is a unicorn?
I was about to say. So first of all, the technical definition is it's a private company that has a valuation of over $1 billion. But I'll tell you a funny story about that. So I realized one day as I was writing about a list of unicorns, and then I realized my 4th grade daughter loves unicorns also. She has unicorns on her backpack and unicorns on her t-shirts. So then the idea kind of spun around a little bit, and I contacted her teacher. And about 2 weeks ago, I gave a talk in her class about the unicorns of modern Israel, and giving a little Zionist education about some of the really interesting technology coming out of Israel right now. And there's a lot of it. Another trend that I've been noticing more, I'm not sure if, I don't know if other people have picked up on it as much, but I'm finding that there's a lot more longer term thinking in Israel. You and I, many of us Anglos especially, we have a stereotype of Israel as, you think about 2 minutes ahead, there's no long-term planning. And, maybe that's part of what, the Israeli mentality is. But I'm seeing in a number of different departments and different ministries that they're now developing like a long-term strategy. One thing I don't want to talk about right now, but is interesting, is that the environmental ministry just developed a 30-year plan in which to, reduce coal usage and increase, the more of the, the ecologically, responsible fuels and stuff like that. But just the idea that the environmental ministry would even come out with a plan is kind of new. I don't think people think of Israel as having those plans. So I wanted to share just a few really cool projects that I've been fascinated by lately, just to share some of what's going on in the Startup Nation.
Okay.
First one is drones. So Israel is developing what's believed to be the first in the world, a centralized drone network, which will eventually be able to be kind of a command center of all the different drones flying around in the whole country. I'll explain in a minute. I first learned about this actually with a story about Pizza Hut, that I found a story that Pizza Hut is going to be delivering pizza by drones this summer. So I looked into a little bit. There's one of the branches in the north is going to be involved with this pilot project. And basically he'll be, you can order drones from that store and they'll deliver via drone to a nearby village. Now I'll just tell you the less cool part before I get to the more cool part. The drone will not take it to your house. It won't knock on your front door or drop it off on your porch. What it will do is take it to a parking lot, in that village, in that town. And then from the parking lot, they'll have a driver there who will drive it, to the houses or whatever. So that's like their last mile solution for that. But what's even more interesting about that, that's pretty cool in itself.
Right.
But this is part of a pilot project where Israel's decided it wants to really be on the cutting edge of deliveries. So this is a project from the Transportation Ministry and the Israel Innovation Center and a few other big government bodies, with the goal of coordinating, developing a viable transportation network that could be used for not just that Pizza Hut, but hopefully for thousands of stores and e-commerce sites. So it could be that in 3 years, which is when the target length of this project is, hopefully in 3 years, there can be like a central command center that will know, the location of all the different drones flying around Israel. We'll be able to make sure that they don't crash into each other, and that, that privacy isn't an issue and security is not an issue, and hopefully coordinating all these things. And if all goes well, they want to develop a national drone network so that, pizzas can be delivered, as well as, items from one hospital to another. The drone network was actually used last week, I saw, for identifying places in the road that were damaged by rockets from Gaza. So,
Wow.
the drones are flying over and they would be able to spot, points that were broken, and they would give them information to the transportation ministry, and they would, go from there.
Is this like a public-private? Is there
Yeah.
cooperation, or is the government doing this entirely? Or is there private sector involved in this also?
Yeah, it was all a tender. All the companies doing this are mostly Israeli companies. I think not all. And, some of them are the hardware drone companies. Some of them are the software drone management solution companies, and putting it all together. And basically they're doing like pilot like every 3 months, I think they're doing a pilot, of hundreds of, missions over the course of 2 days or so. And then each one is going to get more sophisticated and more advanced, with the goal of hopefully being able to have a full network within 3 years.
Very cool.
Okay, so that's interesting program number one.
That's interesting.
Interesting. Oh, that's my favorite.
Top that.
I don't know. These won't top that. But the next one is a traffic program. So I was speaking a few weeks ago with the head of innovation at Netivei Yisrael, which manages like the road system for Israel, all the roads. And they're looking into what can Israeli innovation, what can technology do for the roads, to make sure that we're ready for the roads 10 years from now. So they're doing a bunch of things. I'll just tell you some of the topics that she covered was, one of the topics was, if cars are getting smarter and more electric. So does that mean that in 10 years, the roads will be responsible for providing the communication? Meaning if all the cars are going to be on 5G, or maybe it'll be 6G or 7G by that time, but if all the cars are going to be, on the internet, sending data back and forth all the time, is that the responsibility of the cell phone companies? Are Pelephone and Cellcom and Partner going to be handling that? Or maybe that's the job of the road, the road manager, Netivei Yisrael, to handle. And then same question with electricity. If the cars are going to be all electric, hopefully, or mostly electric, somewhat electric, is that also something that the roads managers should be responsible for, handling somehow? Should there be, charging stations along the road or something like that? So those are questions that are being asked, and they're right now working on an interesting pilot to try coordinating a lot of different technologies, both like satellites and GPS and a lot of other things, to kind of envision what's the road of 10 years from now going to be like. So there's that should also be really interesting. And then just the last project, which is also pretty interesting. Israel is completely upgrading its cloud computing system. Right now, all of the data for all the different ministries are located in the cloud, but it's kind of an older version of the cloud. I think developed by Microsoft. In general, it's seen as pretty old and slow. So the government recently did a tender. They want to build this gigantic. It's called the Nimbus Project. That's the code name of the project, which will build a gigantic new cloud center. This is going to be also one of the biggest infrastructure projects in Israel. So they just now, they're starting the first phase right now. They just selected Amazon and Google, just won the tender. It was a 4 billion shekel tender, and they're going to be developing the infrastructure for this cloud system. And then there's like a few other parts, but hopefully, I forget the time frame, but by the end of phase 4, they want to have all of the all of these inefficient, Israeli ministries. They want to have them all online on this much more efficient, cloud server. And also, just this will also benefit the entire country, both in terms of employment. Thousands of new people will be hired, for this project. It'll also just increase the whole infrastructure of the internet rapidly. And, just financially, having Amazon here, having Google more involved, there's the cloud sphere is actually really competitive right now. So this is also a really exciting development for Israel's internet infrastructure.
Cool.
Those are my things.
Zev, very, very interesting. I want to thank you for coming on the show. That was fantastic. We're going to get you back to speak
Okay.
about other innovations, that's for sure. So thanks so much for being on the show.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. It was a lot of fun.
You have been tuning into the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. If you've got any questions or comments, feel free to email me at Aaron, AARON, at lighthousecapital.co.il. You can check me out on the web at www.aaronkatsman.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn, and to subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.